Hi everybody, I'm Nate Moore. This is Excel video 185. Before we get into today's discussion, just a quick reminder, if you're new to these videos, every time I upload a video to my website, I write a blog entry about it. So watch for the blog, and it'll kind of explain what I'm trying to do in each of these Excel videos. Hopefully between the written blog and the videos, it'll make more sense for each Excel video of what I'm trying to explain and what's going on. What I want to talk about today is, last time we played with SUMIF. And remember, SUMIF said for this range, and our range was in column A, for this pair, find the criteria, Medicare. When you find Medicare, then sum what's in column B. And so we had the range with the criteria, and then what they called the sum range down below. And you may have looked at it and said, well, why are these bold and this not bold? And the reason is that these are required, but this is an optional field. It says, well, if the field's omitted, the cells in range are used. What that means in English is that if you don't do a sum range here, it will look at this range up top, this first field, and if this range meets this criteria, it'll sum the value in this range. So the sum range and the criteria range, if you will, are the same thing. Here's an example. Let's say that I want to sum in my amount column anything that in my criteria. My criteria says if it's less than $500, I want to know about it. And so I'm going to leave sum range blank, and what it's going to do is it's going to go through B4 to B22, look at each one of these, and it's going to go through and it's going to say, all right, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, those are all less than 500. Oops, one more. And so that's 1759.98 at the bottom is the total of everything that's less than 500. So you don't have to have a criteria. The criteria can be part of the sum range, like less than 500 or greater than 10 or whatever the numeric value is. It'll sum those for you, and you only have one range that serves as both criteria and sum. The reason I show you all that is because what I've got going down here is something a little bit more complicated. There is a new function starting in Excel 2007 called SUMIFS, and all it is the very same idea as SUMIF, sum this column if you meet this criteria. But now you can have multiple criteria. And if you look at the formula, it looks nasty, but it's really not that bad. What it does is it says, okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to call this sum range. Remember over here, we called it range because the range might be different than the sum range. When you get to SUMIFS, it knows. It says, hey, I know there's going to be more criteria, so the first thing I want to know is what do I sum? And so it's column B. Same thing, B4 to B22. And then what you can do is you can line up multiple criteria. My first criteria is look from A4 to A22, and then the criteria I have here is I've locked in column D, so I want to look at D15 right here, and I want to say, okay, if it's Medicare, and you can see it's telling me Medicare right there. If it's Medicare, then I want to sum it, but the second criteria is from C4 to C22. Let's drag this a little bit further over. So now I'm going to look in the location and say, okay, if the payer is Medicare and the location is E14 north, then I'm going to sum it. And notice what I did here. I locked in the D with that same F4 trick to use a mixed reference here. Every time I copy this formula, I want to stay in column D, so it's always going to look at my pairs. Every time I copy the second criteria, I'm going to lock in row 14. So I always want to look at these. I may go from column E to F to G or whatever, but I'm always going to look at 14 because I always want to look at north, southwest, and central, my three locations. What that does is it says, okay, I'm going to go through this list, and if it's Medicare and north, so if I scroll, that's not it. This is Medicare and north. That's the only one. This 4200 is right there. And so you can use SUMIF to do multiple criteria. You can do quite a few of them if you want. And it looks bad, but if you use this function arguments when it just says show me what the sum range is, give me the first criteria range and the first criteria, give me the second criteria range and the second criteria, and we could add more criteria if we needed to get exactly what we wanted. Now some of you can say, yeah, but I can do that with a pivot table, and yes you can. If you start to get tons of stuff, you can create a pivot table and you can slice this any way you want. But if all you need is a one-time SUMIFS thing and you know that you're going to stay like this, it works like a charm to be able to say, show me everything that's here and here, or in this 4472, show me everything that's United and Southwest, and SUMIFS will do it for you. Again, how's it work? Show me the sum range, show me the first range for the first criteria, and that's the first criteria. Show me the second criteria range, there's the second criteria. And by putting that together, you can make yourself a nice little chart that can go with both rows and columns and multiple criteria in one sum function. That's what I wanted to show you today. SUMIF and SUMIFS. Stay tuned next time. This little count if tab is what's coming next. The very same idea counts just like it summed in this video. We'll see you then.